Well, before we get into this, though, click on the link we got in the comments and in the description for this episode for our latest contest over on Patreon, where you could win this signed giant C-3PO Star Wars cup, a big mega Star Wars popcorn bucket that you can take to the beach, and signed copies of another Cinema Snob movie and the Cinema Snob movie. We got that in there for you. They're signed too. I'll bring that up again later. And between this and Just Mercy, what a weird couple of movies to be advertising a contest in front of. Oh, thank you for watching this movie with me, by the way.
I mean, I really didn't feel like doing like a video today because.
But aren't you glad?
It's my weekend. So, but I'm like,
this movie.
Yeah, I am.
That's what it was, right? It's the fact it was this movie.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies where I might say a few times in this review, this exists. There was a movie last year, and this is the main reason why I asked if you'd review this. There was a movie last year called The Haunting of Sharon Tate that was where Hilary Duff played Sharon Tate, in which she was being haunted by ghosts and having premonitions of her own murder and being chased through the house and things like that and hearing strange noises and all of that. It was basically like...
It was really cheesy. It was like a bad version of
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't want to ruin that movie.
No, but I mean, like, because the movies do similar things in, like, the last act. Yeah. But it's the difference between, like, David Fincher's Zodiac and Uli Lamel's Zodiac Killer movie. Like, I mean, it's not saying that you can't do something like this with this story or put your own spin on something. It's all in how you do it, how artistic you get with it, how great of a product that it is, certainly. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will clearly be on my best movies of the year list. Haunting of Sharon Tate will be on my worst. The reason I bring that up is this movie, The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, is from the same director and might as well be a sequel to The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Doesn't he have other movies he did that are also like rewriting history a little bit?
I'd have to look it up. I can't remember. We probably talk about it in the Sharon Tate one, because that was one where it was like I had my laptop in front of me so I could like do some searching. So where do we even start with this movie? Like, Mina Savari plays Nicole Brown Simpson in this movie. Now, what this movie is about is that Nick Stahl plays Glen Rogers, the serial killer. And that the tagline of this...
I was gonna say, I've never heard of this conspiracy.
Oh, I have.
You know way more about this.
OJ's my rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Everyone has their one thing that is like their rabbit hole or like their thing like this where they, and OJ's mine. I see so many OJ documentaries, OJ movies. I follow OJ on Twitter.
Yeah, you do. Hello, Twitter world.
Hey, Twitter world, yours truly. I'm just saying. That tells you how toxic of a place Twitter is.
Don't say that.
No, it's true, though. That one of the most positive accounts you could follow is The Juice.
Well, sociopaths are known for being charming.
That's not a compliment. True. That's less a compliment towards OJ and more a critique of Twitter.
No, I agree. Twitter is very toxic.
So, but anyway, like, I know about this theory that he was the cross-country killer, or the Casanova Killer, Glen Rogers. And one of the theories is, because Glen Rogers says this, and I think his brother does too, that OJ had hired him to steal some jewelry or some earrings from Nicole, and supposedly said something like you may have to actually kill her, or something like that. I'd have to go back and look, but I mean, something like that. That's what this movie's about, kinda. Nick Stahl plays Glen Rogers, and Mina Savari is the lead. She plays Nicole Brown Simpson, And the movie has so many similarities to the Sharon Tate movie in that there's a lot of dialogue in this movie, and there was in the Sharon Tate movie too, that are like dialogue you have in a movie like this where the characters somehow know what's going to happen to the character.
Yeah, a lot of foreshadowing talk.
Yeah, where they're saying stuff like, you might not be with us forever, Nicole. Like, you know.
He's going to get away with it. He's going to kill me, you know.
Yeah, and that I was sort of like, well, I think Kris Jenner did say something like that where Nicole used to say things sort of like that. But again, it's put in such a hacky scene and written in such a terrible way.
It was really like shoehorned in.
Yeah, and like don't forget me when I'm gone, you know, things like that.
Not as much in this movie. The acting, I'll give it this. The acting is better in this one than it was with Hilary Duff. The Hilary Duff one? I was like, I do not buy this at all.
Yeah.
And then her like gay best friend or something.
Oh, Faye Resnick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Faye Resnick in this movie, who looks like somebody dressing like Nancy.
I was saying Hilary Duff's.
Oh, that. Yeah. In this, Faye Resnick pops up every now and then, and she's played by an actress from Orange is the New Black. She's looking like she's going to a Halloween party dressed as Nancy Wilson from Heart.
It was definitely a wig.
Yeah. So when it's Kris Jenner and Faye Resnick and Nicole Simpson in a scene together, they're all talking like one of those knockoffs of Sex and the City, like Lipstick Jungle or Kashmir Mafia or something like that. They drop a couple of fabulouses in there, but the dialogue is a mixture of what we were criticizing about the Sharon Tate movie, where it's all this pretentious dialogue like about the person's fate or something like that, or it's a lot of dialogue where the lines are just describing the person to them. Yeah, where they're like, Nicole, you've always been the type to, you know, like...
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, remember, that character is playing...
Ron. Well, Nicole. Here's what I think, Nicole. Here's what I think, Ron.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I was like, no, I do not talk like that. I'm never like, hey, Brad. Hey, Brad.
Dropping the names of the person they're talking to or describing that other person's personality. Like, well, Nicole, it's like we've always said. You've always been such a strong blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of that through the movie. Now, how Glen Rogers factors into this is...
he's like... She thinks that he's, like, remodeling the house next door.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I'll get into that twist later. But, like, so... She meets Glen Rogers where she thinks he's doing housework on a neighbor's house. And where this goes... a step farther is he's working on her house and sees her working the security code on the wall, and then the two of them bang hard.
There's a long sex scene in this.
There was a long sex scene between Nicole Simpson just banging serial killer Glen Rogers right after there's foreshadowing where she goes into the fridge and takes out the biggest thing of OJ you can find, orange juice.
This wouldn't be complete unless we had a scene with drinking orange
juice. Where she and Glen Rogers with the biggest thing of orange juice sitting there like flirting with each other and shit like that before they just fucking bang.
Do you think it was a coincidence that orange juice was in this?
No.
Yeah, I was like, that wasn't a coincidence.
No,
they knew what they were doing.
Because that is early on in the movie, and this movie only gets unsubtle from there.
Yeah.
Like...
It was a big thing of orange juice, too.
It was giant. It was half the size of Mina Savari. And so, yes, it was. I'm being literal, damn it. It was half the size of Mina Savari.
I don't pick up on your sarcasm.
At this point, how?
I know.
Am I that good?
No, I'm just really bad at picking up on sarcasm.
And I'm that amazing. At my sarcasm.
I know, I'm awesome.
I know, I am God's gift to sarcasm.
To a fault.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway,
back to the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. So the movie then becomes a stalker thriller. Now, this movie, I'll say this, like, the movie is simultaneously better and worse than the Sharon Tate movie. Better in that the acting is better in this. Mina Savari's good in this. Nick Stahl, who I like seeing in a movie again, he's good. If you just made a straightforward movie about Glen Rogers, he'd be good casting.
Yeah.
But this movie, the movie is even, it's shot better than Haunting of Sharon Tate.
There's also, like, a better score, I felt.
But it's also shot exactly like The Fanatic. I know you didn't see that movie, the John Travolta one. This movie feels a lot like The Fanatic.
It wasn't Fanatic in LA too, though?
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
and it's shot very similar. And the dialogue is shot almost identical. Like, if you just simply made Glen Rogers like a mentally challenged man, you'd almost have the same movie. So it becomes a stalker thriller / slasher movie. And more on that in a second. But so you have so many scenes where Nicole is getting phone calls either from OJ or from Glen Rogers, or scenes where they're walking down the street and this shadowy figure is just walking across the camera, or Faye Resnick pulling out of the driveway and behind her something scuttles across the screen like a slasher movie villain.
If this movie wasn't about O.J. Simpson murder, or it didn't have anything to do with, like, a conspiracy movie, and it was just a stalker movie, I'd be like, alright, this would be a fine...
Lifetime movie?
Yeah, like a fine direct-to-TV, like, well, not Lifetime, because there's a sex scene and they say fuck a few times, but, like, there is, like, a fine stalker movie if you're watching it, like, direct-to-DVD movie, but... Man.
But because it is what it is.
Because what it is, it's... I was saying this, during one scene in this movie, that's where I was like, fuck, this movie has bad taste.
Oh, okay, if I know what you're going to talk about the ending?
Yeah.
Let me lead up to that real quick. So, the difference between... Now look, plenty of movies take... real source material and really do something with it, and they can be graphic too, but do it well. Either it's a well-made movie, or it's intense, or there's great acting, or something is being said, or at least a great movie is coming out of it. This is more in the category of those tragedy exploitation movies, or those like Haunting of Sharon Tate, or the Uli Lamel serial killer movies, or like when there was that phase of made-for-TV movies that would be about, like, scandal behind the scenes of the Brady Bunch, or something like that. Like, so this is less, like, if movies like Zodiac and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are, like, Autofocus, the movie with Greg Kinnear where he played Bob Crane, great movie. This is more like The Untold Story of the Partridge Family as a made-for-TV movie, but with a lot of sex and violence. Now, before it gets to the ending, there's a lead-up to how tasteless this movie gets, because I'm not kidding when I said earlier that when it starts with her pouring a giant thing of OJ, it only gets crazier from there. Yeah. Because before it gets to the ending...
Now, I know where you're going.
I brought up slasher movies earlier because it's clear the person who made this is a big fan of slasher movies. Daniel Farrens is the director's name. Because as if, like, okay, whenever the shadowy mass figure's coming across the screen, it's like, okay, like Jason Voorhees or something.
Yeah. He, like, has, like, magical powers or something.
Yeah, there is a scene in this movie where Nicole has a nightmare it turns into a Nightmare on Elm Street for 5 minutes of this movie.
I knew you were going
where it's like oh, is it? Never mind Glen Rogers. This is putting forth the theory that Freddy Krueger did it. Yeah. So she falls asleep in the bathtub, has a nightmare, and what her nightmare is becomes Tina's death from Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not kidding. Where an unseen, invisible force is dragging Nicole Simpson up her wall, over the ceiling. It's Tina's death from Nightmare on Elm Street.
It becomes a paranormal movie for a little bit.
For 5 minutes, it becomes a paranormal movie.
Yeah.
And then there are links to the Friday the 13th movies in this. Because aside from the killer kind of being a cross between Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer and Jason Voorhees, when it's showing the news, the news lady, and at first I thought this was a coincidence. The news lady is Tracy Savage, who was an actress and did go on to become a journalist, and I think still is. She was one of the victims in Friday the 13th Part 3, the one who's killed in the hammock and gets the machete thrown her. Now, at first I thought that was a coincidence. I'm like, well, okay, I mean, Tracy Savage is a journalist, like, so maybe. But the neighbor... there's a part in the movie where Nicole Simpson goes to the neighbor's place to say, who is the guy who was fixing your house? And the guy is like, I don't know what you're talking about besides my wife is missing. Can you pass out these flyers? That actor is Larry Zerner, who was Shelley in Friday the 13th Part 3.
Yeah, this guy must love slashers.
So, he's got good taste. Yeah. Like, Friday the 13th 3 is probably my favorite.
I guess, but not making them.
Like, Friday the 13th... Oh, I want to see more of this guy's movies. I love this guy. I was
telling you, I was like, if I get murdered, please don't let anyone have the rights to tell my story by this guy.
I am the opposite. So, when... I want to see what in the hell this guy is going to make next, because this is insane.
We have to look at his IMDb.
Insanity. So this is one of the most tasteless biopics I've seen since Wired, the John Belushi one.
Oh, okay.
But even that, I could say, like, it was trying to be original and kind of was, like, and... The acting was good in Wired, and there were moments that were pretty haunting in the drug scenes, but it was that's a whole other conversation. But, like, I remember when I did an episode on Wired, I was talking to Rob, and I said, if I ever die tragically, please make a movie like Wired about me. And Rob goes, deal. Like, shook my hand, like, please do that. Where I have a guardian angel who's a Latino cab driver named Angel driving my ghost around and showing my past.
I mean, something like that'd be different. But this is like, clearly you know who killed her, but you're trying to make a conspiracy movie, and then the way she gets murdered, it's so, like, I was like, fuck.
So now we can get to this. Yeah. The death scene in this. I knew that I
know
didn't
how she dies and what her wounds were, but it was just like, you want to do that more tastefully than the way they do it.
Yeah, like, so this movie was already tasteless. So by the time it gets to this, even I'm sitting there going like, whoa, movie. So
your face is really red.
It's kind of hot in here. I had to take my jacket off. I'm so mad. Like steam is gonna come out my ears. So earlier in the movie, you had said something like, what if at the end, like, they don't die and OJ saves them? I didn't think that was gonna happen.
No, that was more of a joke.
I think it might have been better if that's what it did.
I was like, that would make it funny.
It would. So what happens? I knew, I was like, I don't think they're gonna do a Haunting of Sharon Tate thing. I think they are gonna die. But it graphically shows how they die. You see, it doesn't...
He slits her throat like...
Oh, so yeah, before he's on top of Goldman, and it is gory.
Yeah.
In a trashy way, not in any...
You feel bad. You're like, God, I really don't want to watch this. I feel sick.
Like, he is just... It's brutal where he's on this guy. Like,
because you know it really happened, and so you're like, I can watch murder scenes in a movie.
Well, yeah, certainly.
But I'm detached from it because I know they're not real people.
But
this is like, this really happened.
Yeah,
and
but
also, like, they're not paying respect at all to these people.
See, that's the key right there, because plenty of good movies about killers show the victim. David Fincher's Zodiac, the couple at the lake, like Summer of Sam.
I'm saying you're.
This is it's different.
I can't articulate it.
It's the difference. Okay, it's the difference between reading a true crime novel and just reading a tabloid.
Yeah.
Like not only is it just in the most exploitive way possible graphic. Like, when he kills Nicole in this, it is in slow motion. He picks her up, and in slow-mo, that slit across the throat.
So, she nearly got decapitated.
Yeah, that was when I was like, movie, whoa, dude. And it wants you to think it's Glen Rogers, but it still doesn't. It's not like he's got the mask on. It's not like he takes off the mask and it's Glen Rogers, or it's OJ.
Well, it keeps continuing, because at first I thought maybe they're going to leave it up to interpretation.
It gets farther.
I was like, maybe they're going to leave it up to interpretation or something. Like, I don't know.
Well,
it's like 2 months later, and then they show Glen Rogers being, like, I don't know, interviewed by the police.
You missed something in between. So, it also is going along with when there was that book that OJ wrote, is this turning you on?
No, you were touching my legs, so I was just like, you talked about OJ.
Back! And the book that OJ wrote, If I Did It, where he's talking about this figure that he's just calling Charlie. In this, when OJ, who's only in a couple scenes in this movie and is not very good, when he has a scene or two with Glen Rogers, the nickname that's coming up is Charlie, so it's trying to tie into that. Now, after the murder scene, it just flat out shows crime scene footage. Like, it cuts from the slow-mo throat cut to the actual crime scene footage of dead Ron and Nicole laying there in a pool of blood. It's like watching one of those Bruce-exploitation movies where they just showed funeral footage of Bruce Lee. And then it cuts to the 2 months later in prison, where Glen Rogers is doing that confession and everything, and then shows him in a jail cell in which a ghost is appearing to him. This figure that might as well be the Predator standing there, and walks through the bars. And
they kind of show that he's like kind of a schizophrenic type, though.
Or what if he is being haunted by like the ghost of Christmas Future? Because it's showing like this shadowy figure standing there, where I'm like, is this like O.J. Simpson is a ghost and is haunting this man and is telling him to do this crazy things, or is just simply this ghost that's walking through walls and bars in this prison just haunting Glen Rogers and getting him to murder all these people?
I think it's just that he might be a little bit insane.
But the way that this movie is, would it surprise you if the director said, no, I think that this is like Paranormal Activity and this invisible ghost is going around haunting people and making them kill people? Because right after that, the ending credits... Shit.
Oh, right.
Like,
oh, God.
the ending credits of this, after we've seen these death scenes and the actual crime scene footage, and then this ghost in Glen Rogers' cell, over the ending credits, it's playing the real 911 phone calls from Nicole Simpson trying to get police over because OJ's trying to break in.
I just feel bad for her. I'm like, God... Sorry, this movie was made.
This movie is awful.
I recommend it, though.
I know, I do too. I'm a terrible person. Because I'm sitting there like, this is trash. It's such pure, exploitive trash. But it makes me want to see, like, because we had
more from this guy.
Yes. what in the hell is this guy gonna do after this? Like,
what is he thinking?
But also it makes me think, like, well, since we had Haunting of Sharon Tate, and then we had the better version of that, which was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, now I want to see a Tarantino O.J. Simpson movie.
I don't think he would do that.
No, I mean, I don't know, like, these guys are on a similar career pattern. Just wildly different ends of the spectrum. You could take Haunting of Sharon Tate and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and almost teach a course on it. Like
you're
like
right.
in film school, to be, this is how you do...
This is what you don't do.
Yeah, this is how you do this alternate history kind of thing versus not.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
God, I was texting Corey Coleman. I was texting him during this movie going, look what I found. I found the January release movie. When the hell did you find that? These movies just happen to me. I just find them.
You do. You sure do.
I was talking to Scott Foy about it the other day too. I think I said something to him like, "Yeah, I'm having some trouble trying to talk Laura into watching this movie with me."
It was just because it was the weekend, and
this is the best way to spend a weekend.
I don't like putting makeup on during the weekend. Not that I put much on, but I just don't like putting makeup on during the weekend.
Me neither. That's why I'm just going bare during this.
I just like, all right, a little bit of eyeliner and we're good. But...
So you do recommend this movie then?
Yeah, I do.
It is more entertaining than Haunting of Sharon Tate was.
Yeah, because the acting's better, and it's also...
It's awful. Don't get me wrong. I am only saying if you want trash cinema.
No, it's awful. I'm just saying, like, if you're in the mood to watch someone get shit on their grave...
Which aren't we all at some point? Just have a film festival of this kind of thing. Wired, the Babe Ruth story. Haunting of Sharon Tate, the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson.
Yeah, then, yeah, watch it.
Alright, I think I pretty much hit about everything on here that I got in these.
Is that my name?
Yeah. No, I wanted to make sure I mentioned, like, the slasher movie thing, like Larry Zerner and Tracy Savage. So, okay, go to, patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and we got links in the description and in the comments and everything. We got our latest contest over there. Find out the rules over there to enter, where you get, we got the Cinema Snob movie, another Cinema Snob movie. It's this big, pretty awesome cup, honestly.
I want to keep it.
I know, I signed it. I wrote, bad movie, great cup, Brad Jones. I wrote, let's see, I got on here,
a surprise.
Cats greater than Star Wars. And also, since the movie did come out on my birthday, I wrote worst birthday movie ever. Okay, well, that's over on patreon.com/thecinemasnob. Thank you so much to everyone who enters those. Those are really, really fun to do. All right, so we got Snob episode and stuff coming during the week. Next weekend, Bad Boys for Life is out, and Doolittle.
Oh, God.
Yeah, not sure what else beyond that, but those two are coming out next weekend. So, thanks for watching, everyone.